All right, perfect. So let me walk you through the email first for context. So it's Sauce. Welcome to the Pesto Party. Granted, I don't think this is their official welcome email. I think it's just a welcome email to like one of their new products. But anyways, so welcome to the Pesto Party. Nice little product description. CTA at the top. I'll get to why that's so good in a second. Then we have a little bit of not recipes, but just lifestyle images of the product being used and how to use it. Right. So the stick, dip, repeat. Then they have the images of the product on the side of the email, and then it wraps up at the bottom. So first things first, why I love this email. I already know what I said, so I'll just summarize it. Basically, love how it's a pyramid, right? So you at the very top you have the CTA or the logo, right? So it's immediately you know what brand it's from, Sauce. Then it goes to the welcome to the pesto party, so a nice little header to give context about what the email's about, and then at the bottom it's a nice little description to add more to the email. But you see how it funnels your eye from the very top to the bottom to the very very bottom. So it's a nice little funnel. You don't have to think about where's my attention going to go to. It's very very easy. Then you have a CTA shop pesto, which I absolutely love. I love it whenever emails, especially welcome emails, have the CTA at the top. Why? Because a lot of the times if you think about it, if I just subscribe to your newsletter and I know that I just got 10% off or whatever, that's probably the reason I subscribed. Everything else is a nice little bonus, but I probably just want the discount. So immediately, if I go to welcome email, the first thing I'm trying to look for is that discount. Welcome 10, welcome 5, starter, hey 5, I'm using random discount names. But I'm just trying to find that discount. And what they did is, although they didn't use a discount, which I don't think this email has a discount, they put the CTA at the very top. So for the people that just want the new, I think it's a new product release, for that just want the new product, they immediately go to it. Doesn't seem like a big deal because you're thinking, well, why not just scroll through the email? Reason it's a big deal is just because it's 2025. Attention spans are just super short, and I'd be surprised if you're still watching this video. Just to give you context, and overall, it just gets people. It just creates less friction at the end of the day. So why create so much friction? Why are you making them scroll through the entire email to go to the CTA? Just give them what they want, and they're good to go. But anyways, I think it's a dang near perfect top section. I would have liked to maybe change this email to maybe what makes the product unique and different. Although I do think they did a really nice job future pacing the email. So what is future pacing? Why is it important to email marketing? Well, future pacing in the context of email marketing and sales is getting the person to understand or future pace what their life is going to look like with the product you're selling. So as an example, in sales, if I'm selling you email marketing, I may ask you a question like, okay, so what would your brand look like being represented in the way you want it to be represented as in your emails? And now I got you, it's more intricate than that, but I would basically start getting you to think, oh shoot, man, my brand would look really, really nice. My friends and family would, compliment me, higher social status, people are going to buy from me. So now starting to get a future pace out what your ultimate outcome is going to be like once you buy my product. So in their case, I love how they did it just in a lifestyle images way. So now I'm like, oh shoot, if I add this, sauce, it's going to look like this. This looks so good. I love salads. I don't. I love tostadas. I love all these different foods. But now I'm thinking I'm associating that product or that lifestyle image, I'm future pacing the image with the product they're selling. So I'm pretty much getting convinced to buy the product in others. So I think they did a really nice job there. I personally would have not liked to add some unique selling points on what makes it different, maybe like some other stuff and infographics, but still really nice email. So those are my first initial thoughts on the sauce one. Let's go to the what is called bureau email. So this one I think it looks okay, nothing horrible. But the thing I really really loved about this email was this before and after. So I see a lot of brands do before and after pictures, especially like skincare, makeup, that sort of thing, and they don't make the before and after different enough, right? Whenever I look at them, they're like it's literally the same person, just a line in the middle, just like this. But I think they did a really nice job showing the person. First of all, you could see it's the same person, so it's not two different people. Second of all, a huge difference in the skin. You see how the first image is a little oily, has some I don't know pimples, but acne. On the other one, make it very very clear they use the balm powder and matte spray, some of their products, and look how the skin is basically perfect, right? So I love how they made it a big enough difference so people could start understanding it. One of the only emails, honestly, I've seen that has a big enough difference in the before and after. So I think they killed it with that. Nothing bad. Nice little CTA at the top, above the fold probably. So I think they did a nice job there. The blue better, I'm guessing that's like a pro. I don't think this is well. Anyways, very nice top section. Going to the rest of the email, I would have liked to add some transitions and gradients. Again, I personally love when an email has that because it makes the reader more prone to read the whole email. Because instead of blocks, they're like, okay, I have think about it like super super small, but this is the way to think. I see the top section, right? Okay, this is one part of the email. But then I see the section, I'm like, oh, I have to read another section of the email. Nah, and they click off. A post that having a gradient like, let me see if another brand had it, a gradient like this, where it's the top section, but you see how it transitions to the next section with like the like nice little waves. Now in their mind they're like, oh, it's still part of the same section, let me keep on reading. That's another nice little example, nice little tip to get people to read throughout the email, the whole email throughout. Then they have some information here, nothing too crazy. I think it's a little plain, but whatever. Multitasking spray that does it all. Nice little lifestyle image there. Why you'll love it. Now this section specifically, I remember I wrote a note on it, but I do remember what I said. Basically, I would have loved to add a infographic or different type of way to explain what it is. Nothing wrong with this because they actually did a really nice job making it very simple to understand under fifth grade reading level. However, if they made it to an infographic, maybe something similar to this, the top section where they have like two different people, just something to make it more fun to read, right? Because think about it, at this point, they're already like 3/4 of the way, or 3/4 of the way into the email. They're reading a lot of copy. They probably haven't even read this part, to be honest. So now they're like, I have to do more reading. I would have liked to add an infographic just to make it more fun. And to be honest, I would have done this in real life. So I would have combined these two sections into an infographic. So the why you'll love it and how to use, or just two different infographics. And the power pair, since this is the product section, I would have just made that in, as I said, an entire product section. So I would put the logo in the very like middle, then in the bottom, the power pair, so the name of the product, and then a nice little description about what it is. I think that would have been a lot nicer for the person to read. It funnels their eyes, a lot easier than just like a, left, right, left, right. And I think it would have performed a lot better. But anyways, the main thing I wanted to say about this email, nothing crazy. A lot of brands do this. I told you my suggestions, added the infographic, but I think they killed it in the before and after section. I think they did a really nice job. Also, adding some transitions and gradients would have been nice. Moving on to this one. So this is not even technically a welcome email. It's like a collaboration email, which I always love. But I absolutely love how they use social proof. I'll show you what that is in a second. So first things first, although this isn't a CTA, I would have changed it. I think they could have used a nice little opportunity to have the CTA at the very top of the email. So here comes the drop is what they said. I would have liked to maybe say shop the drop, and then people could think it's it's a CTA and click on it. And it does the same job explaining that it's a new drop, right? Love, love, love the branding on this section. I never have used any of like this specific way of making the email where it's like the nice little waves across. I'm gonna start doing that for some of the brands. I think that looks really neat. Nice little background. I guess that's an actual image. Shop the drop. I love this transition. So not only can you make transitions with this part of the section where like you have like little lines or little waves, but you could also do transitions with images or CTAs. An example of what that would be like is, imagine this was the exact same, so it goes from brown to white, but I would have moved this right here. So now it's still technically a transition because the image is one section, but you have two different parts of the email. So now it's like it looks a lot better and it looks more transition than just having the two different blocks. So they kind of did this on this one. Not only did they add the little lines, but they also added the CTA, shop the drop, into the next section. You see how this is one section and it goes to the next section. I think they did a really nice job. Love, love, love the nice little let me see if I made a note on it. Yeah, love the icons for branding. I think they killed it with the icons. Always love when brands and emails do this where they add like little stars, little, symbols, anything that could help, visualize the email and represent the brand in a more fun way, in a more branded way. So I think they did a killer job with that. And so honestly, very, very simple email. They don't even have any product descriptions, anything about what's the difference about this product. Even. Also, because it's a clothing brand, so it's harder to have a unique selling point when it's a clothing brand because it's just clothes. Um, not hopefully I don't care if I get backlash, but you know what I mean. But anyways, the point is nothing too crazy on that. But they did a great job future pacing what it's gonna look like for people, the parents, when they read this email, seeing like, oh, if my kid wears this, it's gonna look adorable. And now the parent in their parents' mind, they're like, man, I should really get this. So really, really nice job including lifestyle images where the kids are actually using the product, and then also a bit of social proof. Because think about it, social proof in the context of email marketing is just this: making your brand seem legit. If I could just summarize in one sentence, making your brand seem legit. Now you have different ways of doing that. Number one, showing people actually use the product, which they did perfectly here. I think it looks awesome. Another way to do it is testimonials, getting people to see your testimonials, like, oh, I love this. Reviews, another great one. Celebrity endorsements, if like The Rock is holding your product, that'd be great social proof. Or just like community, if you partner up with like, say for example, if you're like a CPG brand and you're very heavy on retail, a perfect social proof thing you could use is just saying, "Hey, we are in what is it called, Enron, or we are in Jalasco, or we are in Walmart." Anything like that is social proof as well, because the people that are reading the email, they're like, "This isn't just a normal brand. They're in an actual store I've been to or I'm aware of, so it's probably going to make me think it's more legit." And what do they think about that? Well, they're going to probably buy your product, or at least have a higher chance of buying your product. So one of the ways they use social proof here is showing the kids actually using the product. And it's more like a lifestyle image, but I think it looks really, really nice. Nice little diversity here. Killing it with the icons, right? They'll have the little boat, the little stars, and then the little magical mystery tour. I think they did a really nice job here. And then they wrapped it up with a nice little section of like the different products laid out perfectly. I think it's a great email. I love how they represented everything. The nice little transition. That's about it. As my notes go on this email, don't really have anything else to say about it. I think they killed it, especially for clothing, because clothing you don't really have any features and benefits or unique selling points. Maybe outside of just like if you're like, uh, what is that thing? Climate or not? I forgot the word, but we're basically good to the environment. But that's crazy. So yeah, I think they killed it. The perfect explanation. I think it's a really, really, really solid email for clothing brands. Moving on to the next one, Fling. Now I got a bone to pick with Fling. All right. I think this email is very, very long. So if you look at this email, I think it's the longest email outside of the bureau one. And funny enough, I told them to like just shorten the email by adding the infographics too. But let me go through the email. My personal opinion, it's very long, but I'll still go through it. So nice little pyramid, logo at the top. Welcome to Fling, the header, and then the 10% off. Very, very clear. What very easy to understand. Small thing here. I know what they were trying to do. So what they were trying to do is this. Let me see if I can make it perfect. Yeah. So when people open their emails, they wanted it to look like basically like it's like this. So they want to have like a nice little way of representing the email. However, anyways, I was saying, so they wanted to make it look more like stylish with, so they wanted the email to so they wanted the email to stand out like this more. However, nice attempt. However, the problem is that I have dark mode on. I wish I could find the email for you, but I already exited out, or I'm not gonna find it. But that's the problem. So you could do this in your own emails. Most people, I think, have like normal settings. I personally have dark mode, and I know like maybe another 30-40% of people have dark mode. So I don't like doing this because it looks kind of whack, but it's a small thing. I just wanted to mention it. Anyways, as I mentioned, love the pyramid right here. I love how they show the product. This is something pretty underrated too. If your products are like a supplement, or maybe like if they're with like a cereal as an example, or chocolate, anything that's like packaged, right? Maybe like not skincare, but like anything that's like in a box, especially food. I love showing what it's actually gonna look like. As a consumer, this is just my personal opinion. I love it whenever I see brands that show the email and they're like, "Oh, here's what the product is actually gonna look like." Now I'm like, "Oh, okay, fire. I already know what I'm gonna get." And it also, on a side note, it helps kind of reassure the person that they are gonna get something legit and not something like it's kind of like a scam or anything like that. So I personally love showing the emails right in front of the prospect's eyes, so they could see like, okay, this is what I'm gonna get. Anyways, moving forward, your first subscription order, use code FLING. As I mentioned, I'm gonna say this again if I haven't already. I think the CTA should have been on the top. I think that's a great thing they could have done just to get that extra boop and click a bump boop bump in click through rate. So I would have moved the CTA at the top. And then also something small you could do is just use code FLING10. You could just make that into a CTA. So instead of making like a little coupon thing, you could just move this button at the top right here, maybe a little higher up, and then just change the copy and just said use code FLING10 to make it look like a CTA. So you kill two birds with one stone. Anyways, the no list. So here's my personal kind of things I wanted to change. Bit bland, but it's doing its job. Nothing crazy bad on this, part. Um, Again, let me go through the email. I'll give my context in a second. So I think it looks plain, but it does its job. Looks nice. I really like how they put the subscribe and save thing right here. I don't know if you guys could tell, but the image itself is kind of darkened to make the text pop out a little more. Small thing that actually does make a difference, because a lot of the times I'll see brands and then they won't uh blur or make the background image darker, so it's really hard to read the text. They did a great job on this email, so they made the text very easy to understand. And then also really, really simple. They kept it nice, short, and concise. VIP support, early access, surprise gifts, free shipping, things that people actually care about. And on top of that, super easy to read. Under fifth grade level, 2 words. So it's a higher chance people will actually read it. And then 10% off. It looks nice. Nice little reminder of the code. This section I don't like at all. As I mentioned, I've seen other Flings emails, and they always do this for some reason. I think it's probably like a universal template on Klaviyo, but I just suggest making the email on Figma because this is what happens. It looks kind of whack right now. You see how it's black. It's supposed to be white. If I had like no dark mode on, I have dark mode on as well as a lot of other people, so it just makes it look kind of nasty. But as my personal 2 cents, and you could do a lot of other things. You could do like that little thing that I was talking about, where you like, let me do it for you real quick. Where you do this, right? You could do that on Figma, not on Klaviyo, if you were to design the email here. So small thing, but yeah, my 2 cents. And then also one small thing, like if you're wondering like how do I actually do that? Very very simple. You just got to make a column in Klaviyo. So what you would do in real life, I'll quickly show you, is you would slice the image like this, boom, boom, and then you would slice the image again on this side, like this. Make a column of Klaviyo, and then upload the emails independently to each column, and then that way the email looks split perfectly. So if I click on this product, it'll take me to one link, and if I click on this product, it'll take me to another link. Anyways, moving forward, that looks okay. I would just change it to make it in Figma, and then nice little copy here, nothing too crazy, and then the shop now. So here are my overall thoughts. Overall nice, but I think they could have done a better job with the branding. So here's something important. Yes, you can add icons and infographics while keeping it simple. So as an example, I know like the biggest maybe like objection to this, if the brand is watching, they're like, well, my brand is very, very clean. It's very simple, minimalistic, which I love. There's nothing bad about that. But making the email a little bit more fun to read and easy for people to read and consume just helps your brand more than takes away. And you can still do that. You can keep your brand looking simple and minimalistic and clean with some infographics. You don't have to do this whole thing where you add like stars, but you could add like little infographics that look clean. A lot of that has to do with the designer and the inspiration they're taking from, but you get the job done and it's easier for people to read. So all you're trying to do is to get people to read the email, not only convert, right, actually click on the email, but if you're trying to convince them in a welcome flow, then you want to make sure that the information that you're giving them is actually fun to read, so it's a higher chance that they'll read it, right? So that's one little thing I'll mention. Outside of that, um, I like so two blah, 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 yes, you keep the icons and making it shorter. Two things. So two things. So it goes twofold. Number one, let me backtrack. So another last thing I want to mention on this email is I would have made it shorter. Again, you do that with infographics. So instead of just making this whole long thing there, you could just make it into an infographic and then make it like half the size, but still have the information spread out. So that would have done two things. Number one, making it shorter, as I mentioned. But two, it's easier for people to read the whole way through. A lot of people, as I mentioned, their attention span is kind of cooked at this point. So, you know, they're probably not going to read the entire email, especially if it's this long. Granted, a great way to just minimize that is just making the email shorter, adding infographics and icons, and then that way you still get the job done. You're getting exactly what you want out of the email, the information, so forth and so on, but it's shorter. So it's a lot easier for people to read and you get more people to read. So those are my 2 cents. I think it's a great email as far as the content itself. I think they did a killer job, especially with the copy, but I would have added some infographics and made it a little bit shorter for the welcome email. But anyways, that's that. Moving on to the last one. So here's something interesting. This is basically the most perfect value taming email I've ever received. It caught me by shock. I was like, dang, this is actually fire. But it does a really, really nice job representing the definition of what value taming is about. So, and all small things. So I'll go through the first things first. This is made by Rome. They just sell like meat, I believe. They just sell like a bunch of like meat, yeah, like beef jerky and tissue packs. So they sell that. And this email is just value taming. So it's let me just read it to you. So first things first, logo. This is the only time I see the header without being part of the email that I like. So typically, you see how like the Flink did a great job. You see how the logo is part of the email. I guess this is the logo. It's part of the email. This is the logo. It's part of the email. This is the logo of sauce. It's part of the email. The For Rome, they have like a top section. I personally hate when brands do that. I think it looks really not part of the email. I think it looks kind of nasty. This is the only time that I actually like it, so that's a bonus part. Moving on to why I actually love this email. So Perfect valuetainment email. Walking through it. Protein myths busted. Great valuetainment email. They sell protein. Protein myths busted. Breaks beliefs and gets people to start understanding like, hey, this is what I'm going to use the product for. But great. So headline, I think it looks awesome. Protein myths busted. Cool. Nice little CTA. Smooth gradient. I love how they transition the top image to the bottom. And let's get to the meat, right? So what is actually making this email great? Perfect short copy transition. They did a great job transitioning the email from the top section to the bottom. Not only in the design, because they did a good job with that, they had a gradient, which does the job. Not only the gradient, but in the actual copy. So instead of having this very, very long paragraph of saying, hey, these are the three things you need to get, the four myths that we're going to bust, and a bunch of like just additional unnecessary copy, very simple. Let's set the record straight. There's a lot of noise about, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise out there about protein. Let's separate what's true from what's total BS and straight to myth one. This structure of how they laid it out for valuetainment is absolutely perfect. At the very top, the header, like what is it? Myth one. Perfect. What is the quote? I think they did a great job showing a quote as in the myth. So instead of saying like, you know, being more specific and scientific, they made it more casual and just turned it into a quote. You can only absorb 30 grams of protein per meal. Truth. Perfect. And then I love how they actually just made truth a different color so it's more easy for your eyes to grasp. And then they give a perfect description. And I think the structure is perfect. If you're making your own emails and you're trying to make like a what is a valuetainment email, like this is literally just copy the structure. Image on the side, preferably if you can use your own products, that would be cool. But image on the side, myth. So what is it about? Little description about like, okay, what is it a myth? What's the myth? What's the statement? What's the claim? And then the actual truth of it. What's the thing I'm trying to represent? And then a perfect copy. Small thing about the copy too, which is really underrated. This email is the only email I have ever read fully that I actually wanted to read. So obviously I'm reading the rest of the emails just to like for the video, but this is the only email that I actually read that I wanted to read. Perfect. Myth one, myth two, myth three, myth four. Perfect understanding of what is the claim and then what is the actual truth. Maybe I'm a little biased because, you know, I have protein and all that sort of stuff. However, I think they did a great job, right? Outside of the copy itself and the structure, again, the structure is so perfect. I love the little lines they added. I think that does a very nice job and adds a little bit more to the email rather than just taking the lines away and just making it a little bit more plain. This looks really, really nice. And at the bottom, skip to the mid, stick to the quality. Very nice little slogan right there. Nice little description. The only, the only thing I didn't like about the email isn't the email itself. It's just how I actually received it. So when I received the email, I didn't get two different products. So I wanted to check out like, you know, did they add a column so that if I click on this part of the email, I go to the taster pack. And if I click on this part of the email, I'll go to chili beef bites. It didn't. It was just one image like this and it led me to just one single product page. And I thought that was kind of whack. I would prefer having it two separate columns. It's going to look the exact same, but when people click on the two different products, they'll get linked to two different places. Small, but I would like to have done that. But I digress. Shop protein snacks, nice little call to action at the bottom as well. Perfect. I love this email. I wasn't even going to include it because it's not even a welcome email at all. But I wanted to show, like, throw in a little valuetainment at the end of the video just to show you guys a perfect email. I think it's great, and copy it. You know, great. Shout out to Rome team. I think they made a great email. But anyways, those are my 2 cents on the emails. Let me know your thoughts. Would you have changed anything? And yeah, God bless you. I love you. You are my brothers and sisters. And Jesus as well. Talk to you guys soon. Bye. Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to break down 5 of the best welcome emails I have found out of 400 emails that I went through. So for context, we've subscribed to about 2,000 newsletters in the past 3 months. So we have a lot of data on different, brands and their welcome emails and different campaigns that they send. We've compiled the best 5 out of 400 that I went through. Just goes to show it's super easy to win at email marketing. Emails are very mediocre these days, so really excited to go through it. But yeah, wanted to break it down. So first things first, Sauce. They make great emails. Here's their welcome email. I actually don't think this is their official welcome email. I think it's for like a new release. But anyways, welcome to the Pesto Party. A little description here. Shop now. Then they have different, lifestyle images of the product, how to use it. Then they have the bottles on the sides. Thing looks solid. Now, what are my thoughts? First thing, love the CT at the top. Right,